lost my pet snake, Reggie! I hate snakes, Chuck! I hate them! Come on, show a little backbone, will ya?
Hey, thanks for clicking this Bowling Only After School podcast. I'm Jesse Johns.
And I'm Trent Kelsey.
Oh, geez. How long it's been? 2023. That's what we're in now.
Yeah. I thought about taking a year off, but you got me about halfway through. So it's been a while since I've been here, but I'm excited to sit down and talk with you guys again.
Well, good. Yeah, it's been a pretty good while for me. Yeah, I know we were trying to get together, try to do one last episode during Christmas time, but stuff happens, you know.
Yep. I've been going to school. So it's been a while, but I'm excited to be back. It's good to have you back on, Seth.
Seth Kirkman, welcome back, bud.
Thank you.
Seth, this is actually a request that we're talking about today. Seth, do you want to say what we're talking about today?
So today we are talking about 80s movies.
Yeah.
Best.
It was a good decade for film.
A bunch of good decades for film. I think everybody likes the 80s decade, you know.
I mean, you even look at like a lot of stuff now, like you got like Stranger Things and all these movies where it's like entirely 80s nostalgia too.
Right.
It can be kind of like shows how popular it still is.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of that influence and a lot of the nostalgia, like you said. I'm wondering with that maybe like going out of the way here soon, I wonder if they'll start doing like 90s nostalgia, or if they already have, I might not have noticed, or if they might just kind of like.
Well,
what was it?
I'm sure they got some stuff. I mean, like you remember Captain Marvel? I didn't like that movie, but that had like
with the whole Blockbuster thing. I saw they had a show on Netflix about Blockbuster, kind of like one of those Office type shows, you know.
I heard it got horrible reviews.
I saw a little bit of it. It was kind of like the characters were all kind of like that Office type, like they all had their certain quirks, and that kind of thing has gotten old after, like, you know, Brooklyn Nine-Nine and all those types of shows. They've made so many of them, so just kind of I'm hoping it's on its way out.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the when you mentioned about them remaking like 90s nostalgia, I think they did do it in 2022. They did Hocus Pocus 2.
Yeah.
So
did you watch that one?
Or what I'm really
unfortunately, yes.
Well, there's a sequel for everything now.
Yeah. I mean, the first Hocus Pocus, it was just okay movie, but it wasn't like my favorite. I can't stand those witches, you know.
Yeah, it's one of those movies where like people buy like T-shirts of it and that kind of thing, but whenever they hear a sequel coming out, they want to see it just because they're excited to see Hocus Pocus again. It doesn't really matter if it's good.
Well,
but that's kind of like Disney's whole model now. Sorry to be kind of cynical right out the gate, but
live action adaptation of every cartoon they've ever made.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of remakes and everything, like I know this year, this is 2023 now, we got some of these big movies are kind of since set back in the 80s. Like, good example, Indiana Jones is coming back for the 5th movie. You know, Harrison Ford is supposed to be his final time at this Indiana Jones.
Final time.
Yeah.
Final time.
Well, the man's like 80 years old, man, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, 80 years old is definitely a good age to stop being Indiana Jones. I would agree.
I like to imagine Indiana Jones ended with the 3rd movie, and the last 2 have just been like extremely high budget fan films. So the 3rd movie had the perfect ending. They ride off into the sunset, and that's it. But
I think the 4th film would have had the perfect ending of him in the fridge. Like if they would have just like cut it off there. Yeah. There is a like a fan theory about that where the rest of that movie with like the aliens and all that kind of thing is just him, like he's stuck in that fridge and his brain is frying from the radiation, and that's just kind of like his mind going wild as he begins to, you know, die of radiation poisoning. So you can kind of look at it that way too.
I could definitely see that.
Well, the thing with me, when it comes to Indiana Jones, I mean, I love all 4 of them as a kid when I was growing up. The funny thing, The fourth movie was actually the first Indiana Jones movie I recall on TV.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why. Well, for me, I mean, it's always going to be Raiders of the Lost Ark. Always going to be at the top for me. I guess Kingdom of Crystal Skull for me. Last Crusade. Temple of Doom. I did like it, but that's y'all remember that girl, the blonde chick in the movie from Temple of Doom?
Right.
She freaking annoying me in that movie.
Was that Willie? Was that when Willie?
I
Was
think
that her
it
name?
was.
I
Yeah.
think that was.
It was like
So
basically
you would
the
rank
only three love interests.
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull under Raiders of the Lost Ark, and then the other two under that?
Wait. What do you mean?
I thought you said you would rank Kingdom of the Crystal Skull second.
Yeah.
So you didn't think it was
Interesting.
better than you thought it was better than The Last Crusade?
Well, I love all four of them. I like all four of them really. I mean,
Right.
They're all
Well,
good. I make fun of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but on
I
its
think
own, it's a good movie. I just guess in comparison to like the other three, it falls so short in my own opinion.
Mhm.
right.
Yeah, see,
Well,
I The Last Crusade is actually my favorite, and I also hear a lot of people are starting to like Temple of Doom now, like the most.
oh,
I've been
really?
hearing that, and
I've always
I don't
liked
know, like
I mean, I did
I
too.
didn't hate Kingdom of the Crystal Skull when it first came out. I think it was just one of those movies where like internet criticism was at the height. So whenever that came out, a lot of people were kind of like bashing it for like all these kind of stupid reasons when it is kind of just a stupid movie. And you know, it does have its flaws, but I mean, it's just another like Indiana Jones action film. And yeah, it is kind of sad to see him like swinging around as an old man and like breaking his back and that kind of thing. But you know, at least they acknowledge it. I'm just surprised, and you know, like you're like you have a right to your own opinion, absolutely. But I'm just surprised that you ranked that one second. Do you want to like talk more about like what you like about it?
Oh, with Kingdom of Crystal Skull. Like I said, I mean, the first time it's because I saw that one I first caught on TV. That was the first indie movie I saw on TV. I mean, and so I didn't really know about people criticizing at the time. I mean, come on, the movie came out like 2008, and the rest of them came out in the 80s.
Right.
I just think. I mean, I think I had a good story too. I think it was a good ending because my favorite indie girl is Marion from Raiders of the Lost Ark and in Kingdom of Crystal Skull. Because you remember in the Kingdom of Crystal Skull, they both finally got married at the end.
Right.
And I thought that was a good ending for the Indiana Jones. I mean, instead of like you said
So it was a good ending. I just think the whole movie in itself wasn't really necessary because I think Last Crusade was a better ending. Like that would have been just the perfect stop there point. Now, the Kingdom did have a good ending, but I kind of think the whole movie was unnecessary.
Yeah, see, like Crystal Skull is just kind of like forgettable to me. I've probably seen it less than the other ones, but like all the other ones, I remember most things about them because you know they all have their kind of like interesting set pieces and villains and creatures and that kind of thing. I don't really remember that much from Crystal Skull other than like there's the ants. There's a temple at the end. The aliens show up, and then I kind of remember the beginning in the warehouse, but like all that kind of like in between, it's kind of I forget like how they get from point A to point B kind of thing. Whereas the other ones, I remember like, oh, this clue leads to this clue, and it leads to this location, and this is how they figure out how to get into this tomb kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call it unnecessary, and I think it does get a little too much hate, especially considering like its reaction whenever it first came out. But it's just kind of like not one that I would ever really sit down and watch again. I would watch the other three like all the way through, one after the other, if I wanted to do like a marathon kind of thing. But if I didn't have time, I would probably leave Kingdom of the Crystal Skull to the wayside.
Well, the thing with me, I am planning on seeing Dial of Destiny this summer, so I am going to try to rewatch all four of them before the new one comes out. I did rewatch Raiders of the Lost Ark during Christmas time. I mean, you gotta admit, Raiders of the Lost Ark. What can you go wrong with that?
Oh yeah, it's a classic. I mean, that was that's a movie where like everything that it was trying to do, it kind of did in a perfect way, and it does have its flaws too. Like people have kind of realized by this point that at the end, like Indiana Jones didn't actually do anything because the Nazis would have opened up the Ark and melted themselves anyway. Basically, all he did was save Marion in the end. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's still like it's still like an iconic movie. It's gonna go down as one of the greats.
Yeah. Down. So.
Oh yeah, great music too, and that's the one where you kind of like you have to give credit to the music because it kind of started the whole thing. I'm sure the other ones, like I've never really noticed the difference in scores between the movie because they've always kind of had that like underlying iconic theme. But yeah, that's all I basically know about the music. Is the score is great. I love the main indie theme and that kind of like wispy little like score in between whenever they're like discovering things. It kind of gives you this like real sense of adventure and like importance to what they find and just like the sense of wonder. So how do you think that's going to translate to like time travel in the new one?
What? Well, when I saw the previews of this, I was like, "Oh, we got another indie movie, right?" And then because I'm not sure y'all noticed in the trailer, there's one clip that he got his bag popped out, but you can tell it's a younger version of Indiana Jones. But so that's why I don't know if it's called time travel per se. I just think it's called flashbacks.
Like a part in the trailer where like he's going through a wormhole or something. It almost looks like they're in the Millennium Falcon and they have like this big blue wormhole they're like getting sucked into. I mean, that heavily infers it's time travel. I guess they haven't 100% confirmed it, but even the name of the movie, Dial of Destiny, kind of makes you think there's something to do with time.
Yeah, see, I haven't actually watched the trailer, but everyone that I've talked to about it kind of like they've kind of said that the movie was going to be about time travel, so I just assumed that was true. And I also assumed that with time travel, I think they have like a new series slated for Disney Plus, so I think they're planning on like maybe taking a new character from this movie and sending them back to the original time that Indiana Jones was discovering stuff like in the original movies. So I kind of figure that's how they're going to introduce this new series because just kind of seems like something that Disney would do.
Well, I did heard this. I read that Harrison Ford was in an interview and they asked him who do they want to see play Indiana Jones after him. Guess what he said?
He said nobody.
Nobody. Yeah. He said, when I'm gone, he's gone. It's easy. And so I was like, yeah, you're right.
I think that's one of the
I mean, that's a question that wouldn't really be asked any other like era of film than now, because if they wanted to make another adventure series, they would just make another adventure series, but they have to have the Indiana Jones name attached to it because they think that's the only reason people will watch it. But you have like other series like The Mummy and National Treasure, and they did actually make a National Treasure series on Disney Plus. So
they did The Mummy too with Tom Cruise. Remember that?
Oh yeah,
it was awful.
I didn't even see that movie. I didn't. Well, I didn't really have any interest in it, but I didn't hear it was good.
I think a lot of people hate The Mummy. Interesting fact: I never saw the Brendan Fraser one until now. After I saw the Tom Cruise Mummy movie.
That's like I haven't actually seen the Brendan Fraser ones.
Well, I seen the first one.
I guess I haven't seen any Mummy movie now that I think about it. I haven't even seen the original black and white one with Boris Karloff, I think.
Oh, I haven't seen that one either.
Fraser version.
Yeah, it's just like I said. I mean, everything in this entire world that they saying, "Oh, wait, let's reboot," the 80s, or and like I mean, and Seth, you're second right that the next thing they probably are going to do is reinvent the 90s movie because, I mean, totally off topic, but that 90s show is coming on Netflix this week by this time of this episode.
Yeah.
And remember, I sent y'all a trailer of the 90s show the other day, and I was like, speaking of the remake and everything.
Yeah, I did see the trailer for that. I love that 70s show, but I don't really know that it's going to work with new characters. I mean, they already replaced Eric in the last season of that 70s show, I think, and it didn't really go over that well. So, I mean, that should kind of tell you everything.
Well, I think and the way I can tell in this '90s show, it's about Eric Adana's kid, but Eric Adana will be in the older cast. They will be in the that '90s show. I was like, well, they have to. I mean, they're for the '70s show. They're the original group, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you could just watch the original too. See, I don't really like. I try not to watch that kind of stuff because the more views they get, like on streaming, or the more tickets they sell in theaters, the more they think it's going to work, regardless of like criticism or anything like that. So I try not to like support that kind of stuff because it's not really what I want to see. Because
Yeah.
if I want to recognize Indiana Jones, or I want to recognize, Star Wars, or if I want to recognize anything, I'll just go back to the original. Unless I hear that the new one is really good, like Top Gun Maverick. That was an instance where it worked really well. So I would just kind of wait. But if I'm hearing like mixed reviews, or I'm hearing negative reviews, I don't really think it's worth my time.
You could always take to the high seas.
Well,
you could always just take to the high seas.
Oh
Piracy.
yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
But also like
it's Pirates of the Caribbean. Take their lesson from it.
Yeah. I mean that should. Yep.
Speaking of them remaking everything, when I watched that new Blade Runner, I was hearing some mixed reviews, but I was wanting to say how badass he was, and yeah, it was boring.
You didn't like
Blade,
it? I thought it was awesome.
I didn't hear any mixed reviews about that movie. I mean, I heard it was like one of the best. When did it come out? 2019?
No, 2017.
I heard it was like one of the best movies of the year, and I still haven't seen it. I've been meaning to see it a long time. It's on my list, but I love the original Blade Runner, and I think
I did too.
See, who directed that movie? Was it the guy who directed
Denis
Dune? Denis Villeneuve? Yeah.
However you pronounce his name.
Yeah, I've heard Villeneuve. I've heard different things, but yeah, by all accounts, I think he's one of those directors out there who's kind of like he's kind of like making a name for himself. You don't really see that too much anymore. So
what I like about his movies is they're intelligent, but they're still entertaining too. Because I guess like a lot of the intelligent or artsy movies, they tend to be like boring.
Yeah,
everyone.
And I try not to like exclusively like artsy movies, but if I hear like great reviews all around about something, I will try and check it out. But if I'm hearing first of all, if I'm hearing nothing, I probably won't check it out, because it's just one of those things that people just throw on, and it's like, it's background noise, harmless. That's kind of like what I'm getting from that '90s. Or has that '90s show even came out?
It comes out Thursday or Friday, one of those two.
Oh well, that's not a good example. But yeah, basically, like, I heard a lot of good things about Blade Runner 2049, so I will have to check that out. There's so much that I need to watch. I've
been behind on movies too, honestly. Like I just recently watched Airplane.
Oh yeah, that's a great one. That's my favorite comedy of all time.
Is it really?
I go back and forth between Airplane and Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I like that kind of like absurdist, ridiculous, 100% comedy kind of movies. That's my favorite type. So, but Airplane is like one that is never fails.
Well, I watched it on HBO Max that they posted on there. I was like, it's cheesy fun. No, I mean, I laughed at it, you know. So anyway.
Yeah, I was kind of talking about that with you guys earlier when you were mentioning that you watched Airplane. I don't really like movies that like are labeled a comedy, but then they try to have like some sort of drama or some sort of like family feel good moments. You see that a lot of like family comedies and like some like Adam Sandler kind of stuff. They always try to have like a message like just kind of shoved in at the end, and I don't really like that. I just like that whenever they make it, they try to make sure every inch of the frame is filled with some sort of gag.
Yeah.
So the Naked Gun movies are a lot like that too. If you've ever seen
I've been meaning to see
never seen
those
movies.
Those are hilarious. They're just like Airplane. I think Airplane's a little bit better, but
but yeah, I think wasn't it the same guys who went on to make the Naked Gun movies, or one of them?
Yeah, I forget his name. Starts with like a Z or something, but
and Jesse, I think you would like this too. I think there's a movie called Hot Shots that's kind of like a parody of Top Gun. Where, but it's made by the same people who made Airplane, so might be something you want to check out.
I'll have to check it out. I haven't seen that one. Yeah. And of course, I think there was a movie that I saw in the 1980s recently. It's called Coming to America with Eddie Murphy.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I
They
seen that.
remade that one recently, didn't they?
Yeah, and that one was boo.
Yeah, that's a good example of one of those movies that I heard literally nothing about, and also I hadn't seen the original, so I don't
The
really know
original
that
is
I would
better
get much
than
out of
the new
it.
one. Trust me.
Yeah.
Yeah, the new one was boo. Thumbs down.
So was it just not funny, or was it just
It was
bad, or?
stupid. Yeah, Eddie Murphy, that was not his best project. I didn't really like the movie that he did called Words.
1,000 Words?
Yeah, that's what it was called. I didn't really like that one. But.
Oh, I haven't heard of it. You don't really see Eddie Murphy in a whole lot anymore.
The last thing I've seen him in was like Shrek. I was like,
Yeah. Oh, you didn't see Shrek 2? That's a good one.
Or Shrek 3, or Shrek 4, or Shrek.
Yeah.
Shrek
Shrek 3
was
was
like 4 or 5 of them now, isn't there?
Shrek 3 was easily the worst.
Yeah.
Probably Eddie Murphy's worst movie.
Well, if
I
y'all
love
want,
Shrek though, because it's like it's a kids movie, but it's got like so much humor in it that anyone can really enjoy it. Only
Right.
adults will understand. I wish they'd make more movies like that. You don't really see those anymore.
I heard really good things about that new Puss in Boots movie that just came out recently. Like I've heard
really?
like it's one of those movies that kind of blew everybody away. Like nobody was expecting it to be good, and now everybody is saying like it's the best animated movie of the year kind of thing. So I've been interested in seeing that actually, which surprises me. Like those are always the best movies that I like, the ones you aren't expecting to be good, and then you take a chance on it, and it's like one of the best movies you've ever seen. So it's probably one I'll try to check out.
yeah. Puss in Boots, yeah, I'll definitely have to check that movie out sometime. Because I don't think I ever seen the first Puss in Boots, but I've seen all the other Shrek movies. So
Yeah, people are saying that it's a lot better than the first Puss in Boots. I don't think the first Puss in Boots was necessarily considered bad. It was just kind of like not a whole lot of people saw it, so it was just kind of
I don't
average,
remember a
probably.
single thing from it, and I've seen it. I don't remember.
Oh yeah,
from it.
yeah. See, I never watched it, so I never really had much interest.
I remember that Humpty Dumpty was like the bad guy or something, and that's all
really?
I can remember. I keep mixing it up with Rango for some reason, but Rango was 1,000 times better.
Oh yeah, Rango. That's
Rango.
So
Rango. I remember seeing that in theaters when I was a kid.
Rattlesnake Jake, man, he's got to be one of the best movie villains I've ever seen.
Yeah, he's so cool. That movie like also looks spectacular. Like I think it was made in like 2007, 2009 ish, but it looks a lot better. Well, I wouldn't say like better, but like the textures and everything, like they look so much more realistic
Like vivid.
than a lot of like animated movies. I mean, not every animated movie needs to look realistic. Like there's a lot of like creative choices made along the way, but I think for like the grit that it was going for, it did like it looked so good.
Yeah.
Rango, it says here, came out in 2011.
Okay. Well, I mean, still it's
like 12 years
ago.
Old now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also speaking of the 80s movie, yes, officially, after all these years that this movie came out, since 1982, what it says, I finally saw E.T.
E.T. the Extraterrestrial.
I finally watched it. Finally. Just preparation for this video. Not really, but I finally watched this. I've been hearing great things about E.T., but I never watched it from beginning to end.
Not quite as good as Mac and Me, but it's still up there.
Mac and Me, that's a great that's one of the best commercials of all time.
Best commercial, yes, that's true.
You guys seen E.T., right?
Oh yeah, I remember whenever I was a kid, I don't know which channel it was, but one of the channels we had would play E.T. Certain times a year. It might have been Christmas or so. They would play it like every day, and I didn't really watch it, but they would always have like previews for it or like commercials for it, saying like, "Oh, we're about to show E.T." and I would see scenes from it, and as a kid, I was like, "This looks a little weird." Especially with like the dark lighting and everything. It's actually like a really dark movie, just like from a lighting perspective. but eventually I did watch it, and after that I watched it over and over. It was one of those movies that was always on. Yeah, I really like it. It's like it's one of those, like, it sounds kind of fluffy, but like it's one of those magical movies. Like you get a really good feeling every time you watch it. So what was your take on it, Jesse? Finally seeing it.
It had a good story, in my opinion, on ET. I remember me saying I wish I can see a lot more feel good movies, like a perfect. I mean, not as like a perfect, but a great story that didn't have a happy ending, right? Um, and I feel like ET was that way. And ET, yeah, I was watching it. I was like, he talks, doesn't he? The alien, right? He talks. And then he finally talks. I was like, there we go. I had a feeling he's going to talk eventually. And yeah, and I remember like the final part of the movie. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen it. So I'm pretty sure most of y'all have seen it by now. But whoever's
Yeah,
watching
imagine
this
not
video,
watching ET.
yeah, thank you, Jesse. Dumb me.
Nah, you're good.
No, I was like, because when I was watching it, I was like, he just got lost, or they just abandoned this alien, from a totally different planet, because it looked like they abandoned him, and of course he was trying to call his home. But then I feel bad, and of course I think everybody feels bad for the little boy because he thought he lost his best friend, at the end. But it was a happy ending for ET because he got back. He's going back home,
Did you watch the version with CGI, with like CG ET? You didn't notice? Because
No.
like I remember I've seen both versions. Whenever I was growing up, I watched the version that was just all puppets. So whenever Elliot finds him in the backyard, he's just like this little ET puppet going like this, and it looks kind of. You can tell it's like a puppet with like a prosthetic limb.
Oh,
So
really?
later on, I think they like updated it with CG, and it didn't look the best. I mean, I don't think either version really looks that bad, but
Mhm.
I remember like watching the newer version, and it kind of like threw me for a loop because it was one of those like movies where they wanted to CGI it, but it wasn't all there yet. I guess kind of like how they did with some of the earlier Star Wars movies whenever they first started updating them.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I like either version. I'm not trying to be like a cynic here, be like, oh, the CGI like the old version, but I was just curious which one you had seen.
I think, especially thinking about it, I think it was a part when uh, Elliot throw the little. Was it a ball that he threw in the garage and then came right back at him?
Yeah, I think he threw like a baseball or something.
Okay, it was that part. So other than that, I don't know. I mean, it might have been a newer version. Who knows?
Mhm.
So
Of course, I think there had to have been CGI in the original too, with them like flying on the bikes. But I think it was there were some things that they went and added later. There was a whole there was a whole new scene where where Elliot and ET are in the bathroom and his like neck grows. I think they added that one later, maybe, or like whenever he was
I
like
guess I
in the
noticed that one.
bathtub or something like that. I don't know if you saw that scene because that one wasn't always on
I
TV.
don't think that. I played that scene. I mean, I remember Elliot. Oh, not Elliot. ET. Going putting his neck up. I don't remember in the bathroom, but
Yeah, because I think that one was a CGI effect added later. I could be wrong. It's not one of those movies that I know a whole lot about, but I do remember seeing like both versions.
yeah. Seth, what do you think of ET when you first saw it?
It's been a really long time. I mean, I have seen it. I just remember more making fun of it because I think some of the puppetry is a little
Yeah,
wonky.
Oh,
yeah, it's one of those like charming
But
movies from back in the day where you know how they did it, but it's still cool that they did it
you
anyway.
even got like the weird finger
Yeah,
going like
yeah.
with the huh?
Oh, it's my screen. You're acting
I
like
think
you're
my
cutting
internet
out.
cut out. Like, yeah, my internet's been kind of rough today, so it might have been that.
That's fine. No, I remember in the scene he was like, "E.T. phone home," whatever he said.
Yeah, that was always one of the scenes from the previews that I would see on TV, and I always thought his voice was really weird. Which I mean, it is. Uh,
No, that's totally understandable. I mean, I've seen clips of it through the years, but I never actually sat down to watch it beginning to end. So
yeah, I just remember like as a kid, it kind of like struck me how dark the movie was. Like I don't know if anybody else is like talking about this, but I don't know. That's just one of the things I always notice. Just like the house is always dark, the lights are never on. Uh, they're like walking through the hallway. He's like leading ET with the Reese's Pieces, and like it's kind of hard to see. Which that was probably, I don't know. It might have just been because of the effects, or maybe it was just like a creative choice. But that kind of thing, like it always gave me kind of an unnerving feeling as a kid. Um, and especially like when the government shows up in the spacesuit, like that. I don't know. It's just something about this movie. It's just kind of has this like kind of weird aura to it, if that makes sense.
Like
yeah,
ET
yeah.
is
No,
gonna
I
come
totally.
out of the shadows and he's suddenly gonna become dangerous.
Yeah,
Right.
Turn on you.
but other than that, E.T. It was definitely a good movie. I really enjoyed it.
What'd you think of the frog scene?
The frog scene.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh, I know
the
what you're
scene
talking
where
about
they're
now.
in
Oh
science
yeah,
class and they're
okay,
dissecting
yeah, I know
frogs.
what you're talking about now. Okay. Yeah, she was like, "You gotta be safe." I was like, "Oh, okay then."
Yep. Yeah, ET is like controlling him, and then there's this whole, I don't know. It's kind of something that they didn't have to do, but
Yeah.
they did it anyway, just for like the fun of it. I mean, it shows like the connection between Elliot and ET. But yeah, it's just a really creative movie. And as far as I know, it's not like based on anything. I don't know who wrote it, whose idea it was, but yeah, it's one of those like classics. It's a good pick for the '80s as one of the like the best movies.
I do know it was directed by Steven Spielberg.
Oh yeah,
I do
Oh,
know
he
it was
had like
directed
a
by.
ton of good. I think like the '80s was probably like his heyday.
yeah. He had a good run of movies, and now he just does like, I don't know. He does a lot of like historical dramas. He does some.
Well, I
I
was
don't know.
listening. Like, there's this podcast called Smart List. It's got like Jason Bateman and Will Arnett and Sean Hayes. But I was listening to that the other day, and they were doing Steven Spielberg, and like they spent like 30 minutes talking about all of his new movies, and it's like all stuff I have never heard of.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
like Bridge of Spies, The
I seen
Post.
that.
I've actually seen that, yeah, but they were like the Fablemans. I'm like, I have no idea what that is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
the
think that one
Fablemans. I
just
have
came
no idea
out.
what
I
that
think
is.
that one is actually based on Steven Spielberg like growing up with his family, like trying to become a movie maker. Um, and yeah, I think that one's recent. But yeah, he doesn't do a whole lot of like, he was always doing that kind of like creative original, which I mean Jaws and Jurassic Park are both based on books, but still like I don't know, he just created all these icons. And he wasn't always like the writer, but I don't know, there was something about his movies that they always stood out, they always stuck around with people. And now he's still working, but we don't really talk about his films in that way,
Mm,
like.
yeah.
I say one
Um.
of the other directors, I guess, of like the '80s. I don't think this guy gets like nearly enough credit as maybe like Spielberg, but you heard of John McTiernan?
No.
No, I haven't. What does he do?
Okay, so he's got like a lot of stuff. There's Predator, there's Die Hard. He did The Hunt for Red October.
Oh, okay, so
Okay.
he's done stuff that people have heard of.
He's,
He
he's
just didn't get like the same credit. Like
yeah,
people don't know that he
he's not
directed
as
these
well
movies.
known for some reason. Yeah, like
Yeah,
Predator. I remember watching Predator and not really expecting to be very entertained by it. I just figured it'd be like one of those kind of crappy '80s movies, but
Yeah.
that's good movie.
yeah.
Right. Well, I definitely know that. Speaking of, who said who's the director? You said Seth. John.
John McTiernan.
Yeah, John McGarrett. I didn't when you mentioned he directed Die Hard. I was like, okay, Die Hard, because that was actually a good movie. I know, Seth. I know you have seen it. Trent, I know you said you haven't, right?
No, not yet.
Trent, have you heard of the theory that Die Hard might be a Christmas movie?
I don't know that it's a theory. I mean, that's kind of like one of those debates. It's some people, or I think like the majority of people would say that it is now. It's one of those things that people have kind of like taken and ran with it.
Oh, it has to be.
Yeah, I haven't seen the movie, but I'd like to think that it's a Christmas movie because I just find that funny. Why not?
Well-
Why can't it be a Christmas movie? It doesn't have to be It's a Wonderful Life.
Well, I don't think him saying "yippee-ki-yay," bleep, that line, in the movie, I was like, I don't know, is that a Christmas, nice thing,
Yeah, but he
Oh,
also
no.
says, "I now have a machine gun, ho ho ho."
That's
So
hilarious.
that's
true
a
too. He did
Christmas
say
line.
that. Yeah.
Like I said, Christmas. It doesn't have to be It's a Wonderful Life. It doesn't have to be. Well, I mean, Home Alone's a Christmas movie. That's basically Die Hard with a kid. It's kind of the same thing. I mean, if they were allowed to make Home Alone rated R, it would probably be worse than Die Hard. There would be so much
Home
gore.
Alone had a
It would be really entertaining too. That would probably be my favorite Christmas movie. Which I mean, Home Alone probably is my favorite Christmas movie anyway. But
They actually
Well-
have this movie out called Violent Night, like that's in theaters, or it was at least. And they had like a lot of like Home Alone references, I guess. But like they had like Home Alone traps, but they went full on with what the actual injury would do to you. So I mean, like guys are getting like nails through their face, and
right,
Yeah.
bowling balls give realistic injury and all. It's funny.
Yeah,
I haven't seen Violent Night yet. I've been wanting to watch it, so.
It was pretty good. I enjoyed it.
is that the one with David Harbour?
Yeah.
Yeah, I kept seeing the poster for that. It looked pretty. It looked pretty cool. Was he like? I mean, he was in like a Santa get up kind of
So
thing.
he is Santa. He is Santa, but like maybe mild spoiler alert. He's a Viking.
Mm-hmm.
So like he's thousands of years old, and he used to be a Viking, and then he became Santa Claus.
Oh,
But
really?
That sounds
Yeah.
awesome.
it
Yeah.
is pretty cool. You're saying
Yeah,
that Christmas movies can't be violent or can't have cussing and stuff. I mean, that's a full on Christmas movie. And
I mean,
it's
I'd
got
say
all
that's
that.
better than like movies like Christmas Office Party. One of those kind of like
Yeah.
thoughtless comedies that they make with like SNL stars. I mean, that's technically a Christmas movie, but I mean, like
Right.
nobody talks about that. But I mean, if that can be a Christmas movie, why can't Die Hard be a Christmas movie? It has. I mean,
You
it's
find
set
it
around
funny, though?
Christmas.
Well, Mr. Bruce Willis himself said Die Hard is not a Christmas movie,
You know,
Bruce Willis has
Bruce
brain
Willis
damage.
doesn't care about his career anymore. He'll say whatever he wants.
Bruce Willis doesn't. Yeah, no.
Well, he has some type of like a disease now where he can't really read or he can't remember stuff.
I mean, I can't remember a good movie he's been in for like the last 10. Not to say he's not a good actor. He is. You could tell he does not care anymore. Even before.
Yeah, and also like these movies that he's in, like they're not really worth. I mean, I haven't seen all of them, but they're not really like worth trying a whole lot. But he was in a movie recently. It was a movie with Edward Norton, and I think Edward Norton, he wrote it, directed it, produced it, everything, called Motherless Brooklyn. And I think
I've seen that.
That's one recent movie that he did where he actually tried. But yeah, other than that, there's not really much that he's been kind of in that's worth watching.
He did a remake of Death Wish. I actually did like Death Wish, so
I've seen like clips of it, but I
well,
haven't seen it.
I mean, I know a lot of people kind of poo-poo over the last big movie that he did at the theaters, with Glass. I know a lot of people kind of poo-poo over that one, but me, it was just okay,
Glass was so disappointing.
I have no idea what the director was thinking when he kills off.
Was it M. Night Shyamalan?
M. Night Shyamalan, yeah. I never know what M. Night Shyamalan is thinking anyway. Whether he's making a good movie or a bad movie, I can never tell what that dude is thinking, because he will go from making an absolute masterpiece to making like the worst thing you've ever seen.
Like,
Which I mean, even the worst things he's ever made are still entertaining than like a movie that's just okay. So I am glad he's making movies. I don't want to like bash him or anything like that, but like it's safe to say he hasn't. Some of the movies he's made haven't been the best.
Right. I mean, and that's like, to me, that's like that for every director. I mean, they have their hits and miss, in my opinion, anyway. I know a lot of people like Quentin Tarantino. I think, and again, I have not seen all of his movies, but I did watch Pulp Fiction last year or the year before last or something like that. I think I need to rewatch it at least one more time. The first time I was like, So
Yeah, that's probably my favorite movie that Bruce Willis has been in. Not because of like Bruce Willis himself, just like objectively, like a movie that he's been in. That's probably my favorite because it's one of my favorite movies anyway. But yeah, that's definitely one I would say give a rewatch, especially since I know you said you didn't really like get it the first time. But it's just one of those movies where like just kind of like sit down and like relax because it's just supposed to be like entertaining. There's not really like one thing to hold on to. It just kind of throws so much at the audience that like you're bound to pick up something that you like. I like all of it, so that's why it's one of my favorite movies. But yeah, it's not really. It is like one of the most praised movies in history. Like every film student I know like loves Pulp Fiction, like aspires to be Tarantino kind of thing. But yeah, just kind of have fun with it. It's one of those, it's one of those movies where like nobody else would think of it, and I'm really glad it exists. And yeah.
So I know you recommend putting a list over there.
Quentin Tarantino, and I had seen Reservoir Dogs like just the other day.
I haven't seen that one.
That one's on Netflix right now if you want to check it out. That one's a little more simple. Like there's a lot less going on in Reservoir Dogs than Pulp Fiction.
The first half of it, honestly, I wasn't that entertained, but then like the last half, it's just like bam, it just gets like really good, just really fast.
Oh yeah, like Reservoir Dogs, like that's a movie that is it like I said, it's very simple. It's just kind of fun to like listen to the dialogue, and whenever the action comes, like man, like it hits. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't try to have like shootouts and car chases and all this extreme Die Hard 5, 6, 7 kind of thing. Like when the action comes, it like it punches, because it's built up so much. It's one of those, you want to like stand up and cheer. And I don't want to give anything away, but there is a part in the middle, Seth. I think you know what I'm talking about, where like action just comes out of nowhere, and you do want to like stand up and cheer. Yeah. After the song. And that's all I'll say. Jesse, I would definitely recommend that.
Yeah, don't tell me anything. I do.
Oh no.
Since y'all mentioned about it, I might have to check it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Quentin Tarantino. I definitely know he has a different visual. So like I just watched The Hateful Eight recently, and I know I saw the one he directed with Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt and Margot Robbie. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I actually really like that one, but I don't know why a lot of people. I don't know why certain people got mixed reviews. So honestly, I thought it was pretty good, but
I think it's like, I mean, I really liked it. A lot of people did really like it. I heard some people go into it and they thought it was really boring, and I can understand that but I think like everything that it was, he was intending for it to be. I think he's really proud of it because he said like it's one of those movies where you just kind of want to like sit down and just kind of relax with the characters and explore the world kind of thing. Just kind of like take in the setting, take in the vibe of Hollywood in the 60s kind of thing. Because that's something that he's really into. So that was like a passion project of his. And I really liked it too, because, I love movies and I love like film history and that whole like era. The Nice Guys, like that's one of my favorite movies that I've seen recently.
I just watched that recently. I finally watched it recently. So.
Yeah, I actually like The Nice Guys more than I like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is saying something because I'm a big Tarantino geek. But The Nice Guys, just like that's one of those movies that blew me away. Like I said, it's like my favorite type of movie is one that I'm going into not expecting much or not expecting anything, and it just kind of like it cements itself as one of my favorites just out of the gate without any preparation kind of thing.
Well, I did the type of movies I like. It has to be a good story, and it has to be a good story. If it's not a good story, then the movie's just pointless to me. So I know we complain about a lot about sequels are not as good as the first one. It has to be a good story. Like when it comes to action movies, again, it has to be a good story. It can't be to some random guy
I
just
wouldn't
kicking butt.
necessarily agree on action movies because you don't really have to have much of a story at all for it to be entertaining, I guess. Like, look at John Wick. That's like one of the most popular action movies out there right now. The whole movie, his dog gets killed and he kills a bunch of people. That's about the whole story. There's almost nothing to it, but
Yeah, it's kind of like Die Hard. Like a good story doesn't have to be a complex story.
yeah.
And I think that's like what a lot of people think nowadays when they consider a movie to be boring. But when you have a very simple story, that kind of gives you the opportunity to kind of explore the characters, to help you, instead of having like a bunch of bits all over the place, you focus on like one or two bits and you expand them, if that makes sense.
More like
yeah,
just character development than actual
Yeah.
concern about what's happening. I guess.
right.
Yeah, and me personally, I like John Wick movies. I'm looking forward to number 4. I'm supposed to come out in March. So
Yeah,
That's what
I watched the first
that.
one. That was about enough for me. I don't know if I'll take the time to watch any more.
Like
But-
they're progressively
the
more
second
insane.
one's the best. Number 2 is the best.
Yeah,
like
I mean, or like I was thinking in terms of like simple stories, good movies, like 1917. That's a movie where it's basically just get from point A to point B, and that's all it is. But since you spend so much time with one or two characters along the entire way, and you literally follow them step by step as they go, it's one-shot movie. Whenever they finally get so close, like that last scene in 1917, well, not the last scene, but the last like climactic scene where he's running, like that's one of my favorite shots in cinema history. And again, that's another one of those movies that I went into not expecting much, and I came out of it like having a new favorite movie on my list.
Right. Well, I didn't expect the first time I watched 1917. I didn't see it in theaters. I just watched it at home. I didn't expect it was actually one shot. Well, for the most part, anyway. Because one of my favorite war movies is Hacksaw Ridge. But I'll put 1917 as one of the top for war movies. I just but kind of like what you said, Trent. I didn't expect 1917 be all one shot. I didn't expect it. Well, except for like the second half fit when he got passed out, and of course then they went on him waking up. That part.
Yeah,
Right. I think like when a lot of people say a movie is boring, and there are boring movies out there. I'm not denying that. But like when a movie that I really enjoyed, and people come out of it saying it's boring, I'm trying to like wrap my head around it. Of course, everybody has their own opinions, but I think in some cases people are expecting certain things right out of the gate, and while they're waiting for that, they're missing. Say you're going into a movie and you're expecting a lot of like fast-paced action sequences. So while you're waiting for that and you're not going to get it, there's like character development going on. There's like relationships being established, kind of thing. But if you're not paying attention to that, you're just kind of like waiting, watching your watch, kind of thing. Like, how long is this movie? And then whenever the action finally comes, you're like, that's it. But some movies, it's all about building up dynamics, building up characters, and then whenever action finally comes, it's all about the relationships between those characters and what all their motivations mean to them individually. And whenever you understand that, it means so much more to you. I was trying to think of an example. I just had one, but yeah, if that kind of makes sense.
No, it does. It does.
There's a movie like Fury. Fury is like one of my favorite war movies, and that's not a movie that necessarily has a whole lot of action, and it does have like really good sequences in it, just kind of not all throughout. But in between those kind of like minimalist action sequences, there's a lot of character development, and you kind of watch these characters get to know each other, and whenever they finally have to band together at the end to carry out this last mission, that makes the fast-paced gunfire, explosions, and all that kind of thing mean so much more. So yeah, that's another example of a war movie or like an action movie that I really enjoy. Not necessarily because of the action, but because of the characters.
Yeah, no, you got a good point there. I mean, and like you said, a Fury might not have a whole lot of action that has great sequences, and that's fine. The only part I thought was boring in Fury is that dinner scene. That was
No,
bad.
that was like
Yeah,
one of
that's exactly what I'm saying. That's one of the best parts because they get to sit down and talk, and you get to know the characters. And Seth, go ahead. I think you were about to mention your thoughts on the dinner scene.
yeah. I just remember enjoying it. Like you get the character development for one, and then I guess I just enjoyed watching like the other crew members. Like the three. I guess
Right.
it's the side characters, and they're just like so rude and stuff, and
Yeah,
maybe not so much for the
Yeah.
characters. I just enjoyed the scene. I thought it was kind of funny, but
Yeah, I think that's an amazing scene.
yeah. I need to rewatch Fury again. See if it still holds up. I really enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a really good movie.
Right.
Yeah. Speaking of topics, I know we mentioned some of our favorite movies, like when it comes to war. Like, what is y'all favorite war movie? I mean, I know Trent. I know you said 1917. Seth, what about you?
that's hard.
Yeah, right. Because
Saving Private Ryan is really high up there, especially the first 20 minutes. I think the movie after the D-Day scene kind of starts to lag a little bit. It's not quite as good, but like it has some of the best war sequences I've ever seen in a movie. I mean, even for its time, it was 1917 was also really good. I probably have to go Saving Private Ryan though.
Okay.
Yeah. I haven't actually seen Saving Private Ryan, but I have seen that first scene just on YouTube, and I need to see the rest of it. We actually watched that scene in class when we were talking about D-Day, and my teacher was saying like this is what it was like. Like that scene was trying to be as realistic as possible. So yeah, 1917 for me, it's more like I don't really get behind like the historical side of things. I just kind of like to get like the emotions from it. So whenever I watch a movie like Midway was really boring to me because that movie was kind of just like a play-by-play of how it happened, like just kind of reading a textbook out loud kind of thing and acting it out. But you didn't really get a whole lot of sense of like the reality, like the grit of it. So that's why I like movies like 1917 and Fury. Because again, like I don't really know the historical the historical aspect of either of those movies. Which I know like Fury, there was some of that, but again, I couldn't tell you. I could just tell you that I really enjoyed the movie and the way it was directed, the way it was written, the way it was acted, the way it was shot, all that.
Like when it comes to war movies, I would prefer more. I like them historically accurate because I'm a history buff, but that doesn't have to take precedence. Like I'd rather you tell more like a personal story, and then just have like some of the extra details in there correct. But it doesn't have to be like an entire, like you were saying, it doesn't have to be an entire history lesson. That just makes for a boring movie.
Yeah, and it is good to like have accuracy. I just don't want it to like just kind of be a play by play. You know what I mean? Like I want to know, because if you want that, just watch a documentary. But I want to know what it was like to be in the boots of like the person in that situation, because that's not something you're going to get from a textbook or necessarily like a documentary. So I just like the emotions of it, like the reality.
I think for me, when I first time I watched Hacksaw Race at theaters, I was blown away by it. I mean, it was kind of yes, it kind of was a biopic, but they ain't like going like straight to you. Kind of like we said, if you want to watch the entire life history, you might as well watch the documentary. I think there is a documentary about the real life guy who didn't want to touch a gun during the war. But I'm kind of glad that they went the route they did on Hacksaw Ridge. And I'm in Hacksaw Ridge. I thought it was a great movie. So.
Yeah, I think I did like Hacksaw Ridge. Okay, I think that was like a good balance between telling the history of something that happened and also really like because that's a really like visceral movie. Like that's a movie that's like very like they didn't hold back with like the gore and like the sounds and all that, like the people blowing up and getting all shot up in the face and like all that kind of thing. That was great.
Yeah.
Well, that was one of the funny things about that movie is the whole Desmond Doss hates violence. Desmond Doss doesn't want to hurt anyone, and then but then here you go, and you can tell they're loving every single sequence of like action and violence they can throw in there, and like it makes it enjoyable.
It's a great contrast, like throwing that guy into this horrible scene where he's basically just trying to drag people to safety, and people are getting like their limbs blown off by gunfire. And
he loves his action sequences. You can see it the way they just made the movie. I just thought it was kind of funny. Here's this guy that hates violence, and then the director's like, "This is awesome. Let's just put this in."
Right. Wow. Yeah, that's my final thoughts on Hacksaw Ridge.
Final thoughts on Desmond Doss.
There you go.
Great.
Yep, great dude. I
would give Hacksaw Ridge like a 7 out of 10. It was a decent movie.
Me 9. Me 9 out of 10.
I would give it a 7. I think because there were some slow parts in it, or some parts that were kind of cliched, but for the most part, it held up.
Yeah, it was very emotionally engaging, especially the ending where he's saying, "Let me get one more, let me get one more." I like that part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a great movie. So.
Yeah.
Well, that was a good topic about some movies today. Trent, what was that look? Huh?
Just leave that in there. Yeah.
Yeah. What was that for? Huh?
I'm just being inquisitive.
Yeah. Oh, one more thing.
Thinking pose.
Various intellectual topics, boys.
Yeah.
Put on the glasses.
Oh man.
Oh yeah.
It's time to get serious. All right.
Nice.
If Clark can't.
I actually have my contacts.
Seth, can you do my taxes? I haven't done taxes in like 7 years. I think they're gonna bust down my door any day now.
The IRS is gonna find you. You can run, but they will find you eventually.
No, we're good.
Well, you should just leave all that stuff in there.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure will.
That'll be our transition.
Oh man. All right, The Rock. Are you gonna keep on doing that? Oh.
Yeah, I'm getting prepared for my next movie.
Yeah.
Big guy does big guy things.
There you go.
Then he wins, and he's cool, and everybody claps.
Yeah.
And he makes Vin Diesel look like a little girl.
Yep. My head is all shiny.
Or Jason Statham.
Yep. Shiny head movies.
Yep.
Shiny head men movies. I'm gonna have to say goodbye to all this.
You did
if you want to be a real man, you have to lose your hair.
Yeah,
it's not up.
I'm like the anti-Rock right now.
Like me,
I don't know where I could have gone so wrong.
I got my haircut.
Well, honestly, if you put on an eye patch, you would look like Snake Plissken from Escape from New York.
I have not seen Escape from New York. Is that Kurt Russell?
Yeah, that's
nice.
an 80s movie too. So
nice.
Speaking
of 80s movies, fluid transition.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Ferris Bueller is a movie from the 1980s.
Yeah,
and it's a very That's time to get serious.
Yeah,
a great coming of age film.
Time to get serious now. Ooh, I'm wondering.
But really, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. That is one of my favorites, though. I think it's pretty funny. It's just one of those iconic coming of age films. So I think that kind of just has to be included on the list. Another one, Star Wars. I guess Star Wars technically started out in the 70s, but I think it really, hit its stride in the 80s. And Empire Strikes Back is still undeniably the best one. You can't argue otherwise. I hate what they've done to Star Wars now. It's basically unwatchable by this point. But if you can just look back to when it was in its heyday, I think, that's got to be like one of the best franchises ever. So
yeah, it's just like a conveyor belt by this point, but back in its heyday, it was something like nothing we've ever seen before.
Yeah. Trent, what about you?
Two of my favorite 80s movies. Well, first I would have to go with The Princess Bride, because I think The Princess Bride is just like a perfect movie. It's got everything.
I haven't seen that.
Oh, you haven't?
Oh, it's a good one.
Ooh, okay. That's gonna be your next assignment after ET.
There
You gotta
you go.
watch The Princess Bride. That's a movie that
I
balances
got
comedy, action, great characters, drama, all of that, and it does every single one of those things like 10 out of 10. So I would have to go with that one, and I would also have to go Aliens. I actually prefer the second Alien movie to the first one. I think Aliens is like another perfect movie from the 80s. So yeah, probably my favorite movie from James Cameron. Sorry, Avatar 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6, and 7. But yeah, I love Aliens. It's probably one of my favorite action movies. So
Yeah.
And you gotta love what they do with it too. You take the original theme, which was horror, like this thing is gonna kill you, and there's nothing you can do, and then like he completely flips it on its head. And it's like a straight up action movie. I mean, they're still dangerous, but you're just changed it up. And I think that was one of the things that made that movie so good.
Yeah, and I love the ending too, just how like they actually, fight the final alien, and everybody's able to make it. So
they haven't. To be honest with y'all, I only seen the first Alien movie. I haven't seen the other ones yet.
Oh, okay. You gotta watch the second one at least. You can stop after 2. I think that would be fine. But I mean, by all means, check them all out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it's my turn to pick 2, huh?
Yeah.
I would say one thing would have to be Top Gun, the original from 1986. I don't know. I mean, I know all this Top Gun talk from 2022 because ever since Top Gun Maverick came out. I don't know. I think it had a fun story to it, when it comes to Top Gun. Was it perfect? No, but it definitely was a feel good movie. Well, except for Goose, or Goose, he died, but
yeah. Out of all the movies, it was definitely one of them.
Yeah, it had just the right amount of corn, 80s corn, to just make it a classic.
Right.
And also a little bit of corn on the plate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also one of them. A lot of people may agree. A lot of people may not. I don't know. I'm going to go with Rocky 4.
Rocky 4.
Rocky 4.
I have yet to see the Rocky movies, actually.
Really?
I want to at least see the first one. Yeah, I want to see the first one.
Hey,
I hear it's
that's
really
your next assignment, Trent. You gotta watch the Rocky movies.
All of them. Okay. All right.
Yep, that's your next assignment.
That seems like a fair deal.
Or the Mission Impossible.
That good.
Yeah, I have to watch all the John Wicks. I have to watch all the Mission Impossibles. I have to watch all the Rockies. Do you want me to watch all the Rambos?
Yeah, watch the Rambos.
Might as well. You've already come this far.
Okay.
Or the Expendables.
Yep.
No, Rocky 4, the reason why I picked that, it's like a revenge story. Like, Rocky wants to beat this Russian, well, without trying to give it too much away. I mean, Trent, have you heard anything about Rocky 4 from your point of view?
Isn't Dolph Lundgren in it?
Yes. Yeah.
I've seen the clip where him and Dolph Lundgren are in the ring, and he says, "I must break you."
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what you can tell the fight's
also,
over.
Yeah, I want to see, like, I mean, Sylvester Stallone, he's a big guy, but like Dolph Lundgren, he makes him look short. You know what I mean?
Well, Dolph Lundgren's like 6'4" or 6'3", something like that. Like, and Stallone's like 5'10". So Stallone's not very big. So.
Well, that's one of the funny things about that movie is they show at one point that like Dolph Lundgren's character is like hitting at 2,000 psi. That's like sledgehammer strength. And
Right.
He punches Rocky like so many times in the final fight. It's like
Right.
Rocky wouldn't have a head
Yeah.
left at that point.
I just really hope Rocky wins like he does in the first one.
Seth, and did you heard that Sylvester Stallone was put in the hospital after filming Rocky 4?
I didn't know that.
Well, apparently the same part where you mentioned about Dolph Lundgren or I can't remember the Russian dude. He like punched Rocky and from like 5 feet away to the other part of the ring. Apparently that was real. That was not fake. Yeah, apparently that was real. That wasn't fake. Apparently punched him so hard that he had to go to the hospital for it. So
he should have just put it in his contract like The Rock.
Or he can't ever be beaten.
Yeah. One day The Rock is going to have a contract where he says like, you can't even beat me in a real fight. Like that can't happen, and then it will just happen.
Yeah,
he will will the reality into allowing him to be better than everybody else. So
yeah,
The Rock is going to have the Infinity Gauntlet, and he's just going to like have control of the universe.
Yeah. The Rock. You think The Rock? He's been like the same as that guy ever since he started like the Fast and Furious movies. Fast 5, for instance.
Yeah, he used to have hair.
Now he's bald.
Yeah, I remember in the game plan he had hair. Yep. I like the game plan. I think that's a pretty good movie. I think that was the first thing I saw The Rock in.
Yeah. Have y'all seen Black Adam yet?
No.
Nope.
Like I said, I mean, story was pretty good. I just think they should have. I don't think The Rock improved. That makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, but Rocky 4, yeah, that's definitely probably one of the best 80s movies. Definitely. So.
Right on.
Oh man,
I love that classic trope of Russians are bad and Americans are good, and it's just a simpler time.
Oh yeah, that's the 80s for you.
Yep, there you go.
Yep.
So the commie rats, all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, any final words, guys? Trent's like, let's get serious.
Yeah, this is a serious part of the podcast. I'm gonna say no.
Very enlightened. Very deep.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Yep. Well, guys, if there's nothing else to say, thank you guys for clicking to the only After School podcast. Seth Kirkman, thank you so much for coming back in our episode. Thank you, and our first video of 2023. So applause to that, guys. So
thank you.
Seth, Trent, you two want to explain what we're thinking for the next episode?
Yeah, so for the next episode, we thought it would be good for all of us to kind of give our perspective on the year of 2022 when it came to movies and which ones we thought were the best, maybe some that we saw that we didn't like. So we just kind of wanted to reflect on the movies that came out in 2022 now that it's 2023 and kind of like think back from the beginning to end, what we liked, what we didn't like, what our favorites were, what we saw that we hated, that kind of thing,
Yeah. The movie I kind of did want to watch before making the next one, which I really doubt is going to happen, is Babylon, because I know that movie flopped. But honestly, when I saw the previews of that, it looked pretty good to me. But
oh yeah, I thought it looked really good. I'm still meaning to see it.
Well, yeah, I heard the movie bombed. So
yeah, you never know.
Yeah, Seth, have you heard about that? Seth, have you heard about that? The Babylon movie, Brad Pitt and Mark Robbie.
I had seen trailers for it, but I never went and watched it. So
yeah, I haven't either. Didn't get a chance to. Thank you, people who didn't want to go pay nothing to go watch.
Yeah, of course. Who's to say like when a movie bombs nowadays? Because like you hear about a movie made for $100 million, and then it makes like $150 million, but it's still technically bombed because they put so much money into marketing and all that kind of stuff. Like I heard Black Adam bombed. I don't know if that's true because they kind of keep like all the like the budgeting stuff. They don't make it very apparent, so it might have bombed, it might not have, who knows? But it might find
I heard
stuff can always find like new legs on streaming. So
yeah.
Or didn't they
Whereas
say,
before
like,
it was
this
just
new
like
Avatar
DVDs,
movie?
DVD sales and that kind of thing.
Well, didn't like this new Avatar movie have to hit like 2 billion to like actually make a profit or something like that? I remember that I
Yeah,
heard that somewhere.
Yeah, that's just crazy. I mean, that's actually one of the videos I did want to do with review Avatar, but didn't get a chance to because we've been busy, you know. Uh,
yeah,
I did read that Avatar: The Way of Water did beat Top Gun Maverick, by because I think it's at 1.9 million and Top Gun Maverick made like 1.5 million. I think is what it was.
Hmm.
So,
That actually
um,
kind of surprises me because I never went and watched it, and I don't know anyone that did go and watch Avatar. I know plenty of people that went and watched Top Gun though.
yeah,
yeah. I mean, it kind of surprises me that the first Avatar movie made as much money that it did. Not that it wasn't a good movie, but like just out of everything, I wouldn't have picked that. You know, like that was like a
Right.
worldwide phenomenon.
yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Yep, all good topics for another time.
Mhm.
Be looking forward to that. We have a lot to talk about coming up in our 2022 movie discussion episode. So,
Yep.
yep, just be on the lookout for that. We'll have a lot of great things to discuss.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, well, thank you all again for clicking to another one and only After School podcast. This is Jesse Johns.
And this is Trent Kelsey.
I'm Seth Kirkman.
And away we go.
Bye bye.